I'd actually like to start off by asking you guys for a little bit of a favor, and that's to rid yourself of any kind of preconceived judgments that you might have of me, whether that's that I compete in pageants, whether that's the fact that I'm an Asian American woman who's going to be speaking to you about diversity today. Whatever it might be, I want you to think of me as a person and as an individual. I want you to see me as Eileen Kim. And the reason for that is because today I'm going to be speaking about the 4 stages that led me to loving myself and loving who I was and not allowing any label, no matter how great or how terrible it might be, I would not let those labels identify who I am. So, the first stage for me was self-doubt. And this came at a very early age because I was actually born and raised in Minnesota. Out of all states, that was the place that my parents decided to raise me, meaning that I used to have the accent, and if you're from Minnesota and don't think you have it, you do. I realized that I looked so different from everyone else, and I couldn't really realize why. And if you have no idea what the demographics in good old Minnesota look like, here's a picture here in my glory days in middle school with 6 of my very best friends. I still love them and I still care for them so much, and they're actually so supportive of me still today, even when I was in 8th grade. But if you can tell, I looked very different. That led me to questioning a lot about myself. Nothing bad, just why was I different? Why did I look different? Why was the way that I was raised, why were my cultures and traditions so different from theirs? Well, it's because of the fact that I was an Asian American and they weren't. And a lot of people actually asked me what it was like to grow up in Minnesota, especially as an Asian American. And you would expect, kind of racist remarks because there weren't a lot of us. But the truth was that it was actually more so that their questions and the remarks were just kind of out of curiosity because there wasn't a lot of us. They just wanted to know more. So in 8th grade, I found out that I was going to be moving to finally the warm-weathered California, and I was just so ecstatic about it, especially the first time. I remember my family visiting Koreatown. Oh my goodness, I can't even tell you what that experience was like. Because for the first time, I saw people who looked like me, people who had the same experiences as me, people who spoke the same language as me. But the truth of the matter was that being different meant kind of going down 2 different paths. One of them was empowerment, meaning that you take these differences and you take charge of them and you're proud of them. And the other one is self-deprecation. And unfortunately, where I came to when I moved to California was the self-deprecation. And the reasoning for that was that even though Minnesota had a lack of diversity and California had that diversity, the thing that I noticed was that stereotypes were actually reinforced a lot more because there were more of us. More people had observations, more people had comments to make, and I unfortunately went down to that point of self-deprecation. I was no longer questioning why I was the way that I was. I was blaming myself for it. Because no matter the accomplishments that I had attributed them all to the fact that I was a woman, or that I was Asian, or any sort of label that people had on me. It's typical to see a violinist who is Asian and to be a concertmaster of 4 different orchestras. I was never proud of that because I thought that was what was expected of me. It all came down to expectations. And as an Asian American, if I got a bad grade, I wasn't just disappointed with myself, I was disappointed with the fact that I couldn't live up to that stereotype. And it was so disappointing because when we see media, what do we see? If you don't get A's and you're an Asian, you're a Besian, right? A. So, having seen those types of things in the media made me really question who I was. And that, unfortunately, was not only self-deprecation, but that did lead me to self-harm. And self-harm, to me, is characterized by the intentional act of harming oneself, whether it's your body or whatever it may be. And for me, that meant cutting. And that meant becoming anorexic, becoming bulimic, And I didn't think anything was wrong with that. Especially as an Asian American, beauty standards for us are so different. And I thought in order to be beautiful, I had to be skinnier. That's not the truth for any of you guys who might believe that. You're beautiful the way that you are. And growing up, I especially realized through this diagram that you can see that self-harm and mental illnesses, we only see the tip of the iceberg here because we don't see all of the people who actually face self-harm or even thoughts about doing that. Because if you take a moment to really think about what self-harm is, you have to reach such a low point where you're willing to hurt yourself, where you're no longer afraid of getting bruised or getting cut. You do that to yourself. And I knew that it was hard for me. I fortunately was actually able to combat both anorexia and bulimia myself, and I'm very proud to say that I haven't returned to any of those types of those acts in recent years. And that's because I was able to seek help when I went to college. Because the thing with self-harm, and people do tend to ask me what is going on in my head when I do that, is that especially when you're in a world where you have stereotypes and people are putting these labels on you, you want to make a decision for yourself. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. I just wanted to take control of something in my life, something that wasn't expected of me, and that came out through self-harm. And it's extremely unfortunate, but when I went to college and had a little more independence in my life, that's when I reached self-identity. Self-identity meant figuring out who I really was. And when I sought help, I realized that I wasn't just here to go to law school. That's my aspiration, is to go to law school, and I've been dreaming of that ever since I was like 4 or 5. But that was my sense of purpose this entire time. And then when I sought help, they asked me, what are your goals? What do you want to do? Go to law school? What else do you want in your life? I didn't even know where I wanted to live. I didn't know if I wanted a family. I didn't know if I wanted to get married. I didn't know any of that. I just knew that I wanted to go to law school. And I will. I'm still planning on doing that today. But I needed a bigger sense of purpose because that wasn't the end for me. Coming to college shouldn't be the end point in your life. And through that self-identity, I questioned. Every time I self-harmed, I thought, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Why am I the way that I am? Why was I born? What am I going to do in this world? And when I reached that self-identity, I finally realized why I had gone through all these adversities. Because it wasn't just to go to law school and help those who needed it. It was to be here, like I am today in front of you, to speak about my story and to reach out to anyone who might feel different, who might feel as if they have these expectations of them. Because what's important is finding who you are. And if you're able to do so, you find the next stage, and the last, which is self-love. You learn to love yourself and love all these different aspects of your life. You're no longer attributing them to any of the labels that have been put on you. You love yourself for who you are. And so one thing that I want you all to take away today is finding out, who you are as a person. Not what people expect of you, not where, labels are placed on you. It's to think about what you want to do. And if that fits any sort of stereotype, that's perfectly okay. But it's just about making sure that you know that that's what you want and that's who you are. And if you see from this next picture, that was the moment that I was crowned Miss Orange County 2017. Thank you. That was the moment that I joined the Miss America organization because I realized that I had a sense of purpose, and to achieve that goal was to compete in pageants. And you might think, oh, it's just to look pretty and to do your hair. It's actually not the case at all. It's a scholarship organization that's there to empower women and their differences. And for that reason, you can see from my face just how happy I am. But that crown, when that was placed on my head, it wasn't about having a crown or having a title. It was because for the first time, I was living for myself. I finally realized that I could serve others and that I had the foundation to do what I'm doing today. So please please don't think about any sort of labels that anyone wants to put on you. Think about yourself, think about what you want to do, and think about the impact that you can make on the world. Because if you do so, this face might be on yours. You might realize just how happy you can be and exactly where you want to go in life. Thank you.